Welcome friends to another Dune video. Today we'll look at the major and minor houses of the Landsraad from the Dune Encyclopedia. The major houses are awarded voting privileges within the Landsraad to ascend to their rank. Candidate houses need to acquire the sponsorship of at least 3 great houses. Huge amounts of salaries might be exchanged so that one new member with the status of a great house can be brought in. In this way, the existing houses can help sway who is and who is not elevated to their level. Any threats, you ain't going to get anywhere. To be thrown out of the body needs a single session and the majority of the great houses voting in it. But membership changed little over the centuries. Those already within the fold recognized the need of the Landsraad as an outlet for political frustration that might lead to more than a war of assassins, open war, and as a balance to the autocratic nature that House Carino could bring. Many major houses had the proxy votes of lesser houses for some sort of favour, but these allegiances could easily change. The number of great houses has changed over time, however, going as low as 35 and as high as 157. The representative of any of these houses is the head of the household, a family position usually selected from within the family. They will look for someone suitable for the role. One other type was practiced by the House Alcaire, in which the head of the house was automatically the eldest surviving member of the family. These heads would attend the sessions of the Landsraad, or select one to act in their place. In extreme situations, the head of a house and the house itself could be tried by the Landsraad or the Empire. An unfavourable outcome would mean the house could be exiled, deprived of their titles and land, or exterminated. One notable trial was House Masudi. It resulted in the execution of all family members. In the year 3536 AG, the protector Xinglang ordered the name of this house expunged from all imperial histories and records, although he was not successful in obliterating its memory. Curiously, however, no record remains, and no trace has been found in official archives of the crimes of House Masudi. During the reign of the God Emperor Leto II, the powers of the Great House declined, many being reduced to the status of minor houses. This loss of membership lessened the Landsraad's power, which ended altogether before the end of Leto's reign. Former members of the Landsraad became known as mediatized houses, giving them slightly higher status than the few surviving houses minor. Under the Carinos, the houses were marked as being very similar. They had armies for protection, long-term transport agreements with the Spacing Guild, they gained priority shipments for goods and troops, and they had a highly centralized form of governance based on the hereditary or elected leader, a council consisting of economic and political advisors and the commanders of the private armies, and a regular series of audiences with the populations they governed. Most houses faced no opposition within their fief. Only some served as free planets with open marketplaces, and many houses, to continue their survival, operated within a diverse number of markets. So if one ever fell out of favour, they could go deeper into one of the others. When at their worst, the great houses stood for arrogance, privilege, selfishness, greed, lust for power, repression, military adventurism, political machination, and a blatant disregard for the rights or the desires of the populations they governed. At the opposite end, they provided guidance for the populace, a stable economy, and provided justice for those that are hurt. The great houses were part of the great stagnancy of the empire, stopping any real change, so when they slipped into the era of Leto, there was not a lot of them left to destroy. Power in the hands of a few is a reflection of those who hold the reins, and the extremes they bring as part of their position, and where over time they become more interested in lining their own pockets, whilst a few cared for those they were charged with, and the balance was out enough between these 2 points that the houses did not last and they fell. At this point we'll shift over to the minor houses. When we say minor, the measure of that is that they hold either only a planet or a planetary system. The rulers there have found themselves a luxury level of living or become heavily embroiled in the political ways of the planet, but have not transcended beyond that planet. To help with their position, many have political arrangements with the minor houses. Within the Landsraad, they were represented by 40 circles, each of which is given a specific number of votes based on the planet's population, and they generally supported the policies of the anti-imperial parts of the great houses. For example, reducing what qualifies a house as a great house, and thus diluting the great powers and their voting power within the Landsraad. Interestingly, as the Dune Encyclopedia explains to us, the Houses Minor possessed certain legal rights under imperial law not granted to ordinary citizens, although their privileges do not approach those of the Houses Major. The head of a minor house and his immediate family could not be jailed, exiled, or executed without a trial conducted by their peers. When capital charges were brought against a house minor or its official members, 3 Landsraad representatives from circles other than that of the house being tried were selected by lot and sat in judgment as a court of last resort, subject to the final veto of the emperor. The emperor could convict a house major when he had proof of treason, but in other circumstances he could also overturn a conviction of a Landsraad court or suspend its findings. Houses Minor could be convicted of misdemeanors by local courts and fined. These fines had to be paid before the next Landsraad session, or charges might be brought by the planetary administrators to strip the errant house of its status. As with the great houses under imperial law, the head of the house was seen as the head of a house under certain circumstances and might be forced to suffer the ultimate penalty of death or exile if members of his house transgressed. I guess it's the family going down as the family rather than as an individual. And that, friends, ends our study of the major and minor houses of the Imperium.